Good evening to you, wrestling fans. Welcome to the Squared Circle Extra. I am Stefan Bennett, and a bit of a strange start there. Some of the stuff wasn't working, so I'll have to talk to Andy about that. So forgive me regarding that. So here we are today. It's been a cracking week in the world of professional wrestling. There's been championship changes in terms of Stardom. We will get to that shortly in our as we start talking about our news. Don't forget as well that we've got coming up this Tuesday evening. We will be back with our normal show, and we will have a special guest with us joining us as we discuss the WWE draft that's coming up. Which will be coming up on next Friday's SmackDown. We'll also be talking about all the other stuff that we can look forward to and all the latest news and whatnot. And we will also be talking about how we would book the draft. So that'll be worth watching. But we want to hear from you as always, and you can do so by contacting us on Twitter at www.twitter.com/wrestling TSC. If you want to get us on Instagram, it is instagram.com and look for TSC Wrestling Podcast. You can get us on Facebook at the Squared Circle Podcast. Find us here on YouTube if you want to at youtube.com/TSC Wrestling Podcast. Or you could WhatsApp us for your very own little bit of the bubbly on 077 243 12752, or you can email us as always on the Squared Circle Podcast 2022 at gmail.com. So we're going to kick it off straight with the news. As I said, the production thing wasn't working correctly there, so I apologize for that. So we got a little bit of breaking news for you regarding All Elite Wrestling, and it's a trademark situation, and AEW have trademarked the rights to the name AEW Wrestle Dream. Okay, then. The company have filed for the term on April 19th under merchandise purposes with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. The description is as follows: AEW Wrestle Dream. Trademark registration is intended to cover the categories of bandanas, headwear, pajamas, pants, pullovers, shirts, shorts, socks, sweatpants, sweatshirts, underwear, athletic apparel, namely shirts, pants, jackets, footwear, hats, caps, athletic apparel, athletic uniforms, clothing belts, clothing for wear in wrestling games, jogging suits, leather belts for clothing, outer jackets, polo shirts, sports shirts, t-shirts, tank tops, wristbands as clothing. Now, pretty much every form of clothing, I think, is covered there. At the moment, there's been no other plans to use that trademark for any other purposes within the promotion. But that is what's coming out today from All Elite Wrestling. Okay, so also this weekend, Mercedes Moné lost her IWGP Women's Championship to Mayu Iwatani on the main event of the Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom. The undercard featured Saruri Chichiro Hashimoto. We had the Artist of Stardom Championship, Risa Sera, Suzu Suzuki, and Hiragi Kurumi. They defended against Kairi Saori Anu and Natsupoi. We had the Goddess of Stardom Championship as Nanae Takahashi and Yu defended against Mirai and Emi Sarai. So those were some of the matches which were on Stardom. Mesa Kurie won the Yokohama Rumble, which is worth noting. But sticking with Mercedes Moné, she's come out and she's criticised dirt sheets after there's been multiple dirt sheets writing about how rich she is. She wrote, "I'm richer than I've ever been, and I love that for me." Hashtag Monet on her Twitter account. Then she later posted, "The fact that there's dirt sheets for scripted entertainment is hilarious. You'll need to keep the fantasy booking / stories for Reddit. Let us entertainers entertain you. Point blank, period. Please enjoy our hard work and craft. Have fun, you marks. Well, surely she of everyone should know that wrestling fans, dirt sheets, etc., will do whatever the hell they want. They're not going to be told by her. I'm not saying I don't disagree with her. I'm not saying I do agree with her. In the position she's in and how long she's been around for, clearly shows that she should know better than to come out and pretty much, criticize whatnot, because not everyone's going to listen. So we'll see if she has anything else to say in future regarding that. In other news as well, a former WWE female star was backstage at Saturday's GCW event, which saw Trinity Fatu, formerly known as Naomi. It's unclear why she was visiting there, whether it's a possible working relationship that's in the pipeline. She hasn't wrestled since walking out of WWE last May alongside Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Moné, due to their dispute with Vince McMahon and WWE. She's recently abandoned her trademark that was assumed to be her new WWE, post WWE ring name. But she also addressed a report that was mentioned about her asking price to work in New Japan and Stardom, which ultimately led to the parent company, Bushiroad, not signing her. So it'll be something worth keeping an eye on. But the reason has been apparently given why New Japan passed on signing her. And this was obviously after she mentioned she no longer works with WWE. This is what she mentioned on her social media. But apparently, Bushiroad, as I just mentioned, which are the parent company of New Japan Pro Wrestling and Stardom, found it difficult to commit to a longer deal for Mercedes Moné due to dealing with financial constraints. Dave Meltzer has also noted this recently and saying about whether or not they should bring Naomi in with them, or Trinity in with them, should I say, saying that it would cost too much for the return and thus far hadn't made that deal. It is possible that the two sides can agree for the right money for that to make the deal happen. But at the moment, it doesn't look like that's currently on the cards. So apparently they don't have the money for to sign Naomi or Trinity. So it will be interesting to see where she does eventually end up when she gets back into the ring. Who's she going to sign with? We will see. And finally, also in other news, Chavo Guerrero, Chavito, has mentioned about his WrestleMania 24 loss to Kane, which he lost in 11 seconds, saying it was his biggest payday in WWE. Now, he explained during a digital signing on the Captain's Corner that the match was his biggest payoff he's ever had in WWE, and it was actually supposed to be much longer. He said the week before Mania, we had like 8-minute matches. When we got to WrestleMania, Vince called us in. He goes, guys, I have to cut time. I'm cutting time all over the place. I even cut time from the main event and here shuffling times around. So he goes, I can only give you guys 2 minutes. Well, I'm like, 2 minutes? Well, what are we going to do in 2 minutes? No one remembers a 2-minute match at WrestleMania. Nobody. So we're like, well, what if we say we can do this in, 10, 20 seconds? And he was like, what? That's great. How can you do that? By the second, it's incredible, but it's for the whole match. It was the most I got paid for one match. It was a lot, and I thank you, Jim Ross. But yeah, that was for that. And if you break down the second, it was pretty lucrative. Chavo would then have a rematch at the following Backlash event, and while the match went longer, he would fail to regain his championship in that. So, for 11-second match, biggest payday, you can't really argue with that, although it is WrestleMania, and I'm sure you want to be showcased as much as you can. So, that's what we've got at the news for the moment. Now we're going to head off over to discuss what has been happening in WWE, Impact, and AEW this week. So, right. We're going now to start with SmackDown. Now, we opened up having a tag team match between the LWO's Rey Mysterio, the latest Hall of Famer WWE, Santos Escobar versus Finn Balor and Damian Priest of the Judgment Day. An enjoyable opening match, I have to say. It was one of the better matches of the night. I am a fan of Santos Escobar from in NXT. I think the guy could have a great future if WWE invests time in him. I think he's extremely talented. I like the way he wrestles. I like his gimmick that he had in NXT and when he first come up to the main roster. But I do fear that once this LWE thing's over, that Santos Escobar or Legado del Fantasma may not get a decent push, but I do feel that they are actually an asset to WWE. I know some people disagree with that, but I think they have a lot to offer the main roster. This match was also ahead of Bad Bunny's return, which is coming up on Raw on Monday. But it was the Judgment Day that got the victory. Damian Priest and Finn Balor knocked Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar right off in the opening contest. It was very energetic. It did make sense to have them kick off the match because of the, they're kind of two of the big groups in WWE at this moment in time, especially with the ongoing rivalry between Judgment Day and Rey Mysterio and the fact that Legado del Fantasma have been added to that. But Judgment Day scored a clean victory, has to be said. Priest looks solid in this match. Damian Priest looks solid in this match. It's good to see it because I think that Damian Priest is one of the best big guys in the company and has been for a little while now. And I still think that he has big things waiting for him when he goes back to singles competition. But but it was Judgment Day getting the victory on that. Whether they needed it, I don't know. As I said, I worry about the guys from the LWO constantly taking losses, makes them weaker. For me, I don't like the fact that they're building something and yet they're still keeping them with the losses. And no, that's the bit I don't enjoy. But Priest delivered South of Heaven and scored the victory over Santos Escobar. We also was treated to another tag team match, Braun Strowman and Ricochet. To be fair, this mismatch between Strowman and Ricochet it's actually working, much to the annoyance of some, maybe even myself, because I wasn't keen on the pairing to begin with. But they seem to work very, very well together, and they're turning into a really, really good team. They went up against the Viking Raiders. I actually thought the Viking Raiders were going to win this match. Wasn't to be. Ricochet, Braun Strowman picking up the victory. But the dynamic of the duo of Strowman and Ricochet is absolutely outstanding. It'd be interesting if this is going to continue, this partnership between the two, much longer with the draft coming up. I would say it's highly unlikely, but you never know. But I do think this match could have and maybe should have had an element added to it where maybe a number one contendership match for the Undisputed Tag Team Championship being on the line or something. Maybe having something like that may have, given it a little bit something more, I have to say. Another tag team match. It's almost like Teddy Long, who's booking SmackDown. The WWE Women's Tag Team Championships on the line. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defending against Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. I have to keep saying, and I say this, and I'm not hating on Sonya Deville. I like Sonya Deville, but I just don't see that she, in terms of in the ring, I don't think she offers a great deal. that keeps me rooting for her. Keeps me wanting to see her do really well. I actually preferred her when she was in the kind of like the GM mode role with Adam Pearce when they were running things. I actually preferred that. Chelsea Green, I want to see Chelsea Green do well. I know there are some fans that are not familiar with Chelsea Green really from all the stuff she's done elsewhere. But I am a big fan of Chelsea Green, and I do think that if WWE does invest time and spotlight on her, she could go on to do some really good things in WWE. I do worry it's the same thing when WWE brought back Tenille Dashwood, as WWE fans know as Emma, one of the best female wrestlers anywhere, and she just doesn't win very much. I mean, we don't even see her wrestle that much, and it's almost like they've just brought her back just to waste her like they did before she was initially released the first time round. So, I like the team of Rodriguez and Morgan, although some of the mic work really needs working on, in my opinion. But to be fair, it's in the tag titles. They're in good hands. It'd be interesting to see who's going to dethrone them. I mean, I'm still maybe kind of thinking it might be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler when they come back, because I think there's injuries with them too. So we will see what happens there. Another match which was built up from last week's SmackDown, we saw Gunther defending the Intercontinental Championship against Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods, I can't remember what it was, but there was a stat that came out that before this episode of SmackDown, Xavier Woods had been undefeated in all his singles matches for quite some time. I can't remember exactly when it was. May have to bring that up on Tuesday's show. Again, an enjoyable match, but Gunther's an absolute monster. He's absolutely fantastic. Woods still looks good though as a singles player. Now, if he can stay injury free long enough, I'd like to see Xavier Woods after this draft really get a push as a single star, whether it's challenging for the United States Championship or still going for the Intercontinental Championship. I still think, and again, I know New Day have their fans, but it is time to split New Day completely. They did it with Big E, and obviously Big E's unfortunately still out, injured. But I think it's time to let Kofi do his thing and let Xavier Woods do his thing, and maybe give Xavier Woods a little bit of a push, because the guy can wrestle, and he's very charismatic, and he's got such a large fan base as well. So, I think that would be really good. But yeah, Gunther taking the win here, retaining his championship. Again, making Xavier Woods looking so good. Needs a single run more often, and definitely I think should challenge for championships. Gunther, however long he's going to hold this Intercontinental Championship, I do not know. I don't know who's going to dethrone him as that. But Gunther is main event material anyway. And I think that shortly after the draft, we may start seeing whichever brand he's going to be on becoming one of the main players on that brand, and rightly so as well. Gunther's just absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, this match was actually my favourite match of the entire SmackDown show. It was just a great wrestling match. The main event on SmackDown saw a no disqualification match between Matt Riddle and Solo Sikoa. I'm not going to hate on Matt Riddle here. I'm not a fan. I don't dislike the guy. I just not a fan. Don't get the hype at all. But Solo Sikoa with the win. This match was carnage. It was a very, very good main event. We saw tables involved. The Usos obviously got involved, which was the main thing. There was this really cool moment where Solo Sikoa went to finish Matt Riddle off with the Samoan spike. Riddle ducked it, reversed it, and hit his high knee to the face. But yeah, the dominance of the three Bloodline members just overtook, and Sikoa pinned Riddle to get the win. Before that, though, the Usos cut a really, really good promo regarding their WrestleMania rematch that they're going to have at Backlash against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Sorry, not for Backlash. Is next week's SmackDown, should I say? And it was a brilliant promo. Really, really was a brilliant promo. I know that there's still this talk about what's going to happen with the tag titles. How long are Zayn and Owens going to keep those tag titles? We don't know. How's the draft going to play a part in this? I find it very strange, though, that we're having Backlash after the draft has been completed. I think that's very strange. I mean, personally, if it were me, I would have had Backlash and then done the draft maybe the week following Backlash, excuse me. But yeah, it was a really, really physical match. As I said, we had everything from high flying spots to tables being involved. It was carnage, absolute carnage. But yeah, that was SmackDown this week. But a decent show. If I was going to rate SmackDown this past week from a 1 to 5, I'll give it a 3.5. It was an enjoyable episode of SmackDown. I'll give them that. We're going to go back earlier into the week to NXT. Now we've got spring breaking. Less said about that. But anyway, we are now seeing the full removal of Bron Breakker away from the NXT Championship picture. That's clear. He's got this new issue with Chase U. We opened up with the NXT Tag Team Championship on the line. Gallus, the champions, versus the Creed brothers versus the Died in a triple threat tag team match. There was we saw massive brawl before the whole show even began. There was a lot of match officials around ringside. I'm assuming just to keep an eye on things to make sure everything was contained to the ring. There was moments near falls for all the teams that we had. We had Ava Rain, who distracted Julius to set up the dyad, and Niall got in her face for it. And Brutus accidentally knocked Reed off the top rope and into Niall. There was, as I said, near falls. There was one bit where Reed hit Mark Coffey with a super kick. Julius then he Reed in the face. And he just fell up to cover Mark for another near fall. But in the end, Gallus retaining, looking very, very strong. The tag team division in NXT is something else, I have to say. Not for the first time. NXT in the black and gold days was solid. Again, it puts the main roster to shame with the tag team division. It really, really does. I would even go as far as saying that maybe WWE should change things where tag teams, can appear on the main roster as well as NXT, because Raw and SmackDown need what NXT has when it comes to tag team wrestling. I can't understand why it can thrive so much in NXT, but it can't on the main roster. I don't understand why they can't invest in the tag team division like that, because normally, as we've seen many, many times before, really good teams get called up from NXT to Raw, SmackDown, and then within months that they end up all within a year or so, they end up getting split, or someone gets released, or the whole team gets released. So it'd be interesting to see WWE sort of break that cycle, because NXT again has a great, fantastic tag team division, and I expect to see some changes and some good call-ups being done during the draft on there as well. So that'll be interesting. Noam Dar, who's just returned to NXT, took on Miles Bourne. It was an okay match. It was a squash match. Again, Noam Dar showing how good he is with his ability, whilst being reveling in his own arrogance, so to speak. I expect to see Noam Dar against the likes of Axiom, Apollo Crews, Dragon Lee, Wesley, JD McDonough, maybe even Tyler Bate again, guys like that. It'll be interesting to see where Noam Dar goes from there. There was a segment as well where we had Duke Hudson of Chase U challenging Bron Breakker, which was on behalf of Andre Chase. We had Odyssey Jones going for a match, but Bron Breakker nailed him out nowhere with a spear. Then Duke Hudson was up near where the crowd were, and he laid down the challenge. It's a really cool little segment. Hudson has something about him which I think if WWE or Shawn Michaels, whoever's running NXT, gives him an opportunity, I think if Hudson takes that opportunity, takes the ball and runs with it, I think we could actually see just how good Duke Hudson could really be. There's a lot of potential with him, and I'm starting to really warm to him. And I'm always for giving someone a chance and say, you've got something about you. If we give you if they give you an opportunity, take it. I want to see what you can really do, and I think they could do that with Duke Hudson. There was that moment. We had in terms of women's competition, Zoe Stark. Sorry, she bores me against former NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez. Thankfully, Perez winning in the match by pinfall. The match itself was really, really good. We had after the match Indy Hartwell, who's the current NXT Women's Champion, challenged Roxanne Perez to the match at Spring Breaking. Then Tiffany Stratton come out yet again, as she's been doing recently. She took offence to all of that. And to be fair, Indy Hartwell, she's letting her in on it as well, and we're having a triple threat match. So I'm really looking forward to that match. The match between Stark and Roxanne Perez, they got really good chemistry in the ring. Whether either or both may end up in the main roster after the draft, I don't know. Might be a little bit too soon. I don't really know what NXT has for them both. Their in-ring ability, as much as I'm not a fan of Zoe Stark, in-ring ability, fine. It was a fantastic match. In my opinion, was the best match on NXT this past week. We then went and had Cora Jade versus Gigi Dolan, two of my favourite women in NXT. But JC Jane, again, obviously, someone else who I really like, got involved. She got up on the apron. Gigi Dolan beat her down, but that caused enough of a distraction for Cora Jade to hit Dolan with a running high knee and a DDT for the win. Lyra Valkyria, she came out while Cora Jade was celebrating during doing some post-match promo, and then she challenged her to a match for next week. So that'll be an interesting match that I'm looking forward to. The match wasn't even really that much of a contest. JC Jane got involved so quick. But Jade and Dolan, to be fair, I want to see them have an actual proper match at some point. But it was clear that this was only set up just for set up the angles, the storylines, and progress with those. So we'll see what happens with there. But this episode of NXT coming up next week is going to be the last NXT episode for some of the talent. Some of the talent are going to get called up. So it'd be really interesting to see who makes the move. Apollo Crews versus Dijak. I really don't dig this Dijak gimmick. I'm not. I still think the Dominic Dijakovic that we were used to and the Black and Gold brand was brilliant enough. I think that his gimmicks are failing since. I think that he's being wasted. We see some of the matches he had with the likes of Keith Lee. I mean, the guy was absolutely stellar. How he's not already, 2 years into being himself on the main roster, with the guys like Damian Priest, for example, is beyond me. I don't understand it at all. However, he's currently, he worked with someone like Apollo Crews, but he got the win over Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews is someone who I really confuses me, because it's like he's extremely talented, but it's like he can't make it work properly on the main roster. But then he always seems to be too good for NXT. It's very, very strange. It's almost like they can't find something that works for Apollo Crews, and I don't understand why. But that's how that seems to come across. So it's a very, very, very strange situation. But this is building to this rivalry that's starting to develop, I think, between Dijak and Ilya Dragunov. And obviously, we all know how good Ilya Dragunov is. So, maybe we can start seeing more out of Dijak when he goes up against Ilya Dragunov. Wesley defended his NXT North American Championship against Charlie Dempsey. Drew Gulak was in Dempsey's corner. A decent match. Wesley defending successfully. Very hard hitting. I didn't think it was as intense or as heated as what the last sort of few more recent of Wesley's title defenses have been. But Dempsey has something. I just think he just needs to find that little extra whatever it is. There's just this little thing I think he's missing, but I don't know what it is. If he can find that, then I think Dempsey could be a major player. He's the son of William Regal. I mean, he's learned from the best. So we'll see what happens. We also got to see Tony D'Angelo and Stax deciding that they want to fight Pretty Deadly next week in the first ever trunk match. I'm all for this. Tony D'Angelo and Stax are growing on me. They're becoming one of my favorites in NXT. The longer they've been teaming together, the more I'm starting to enjoy them. Pretty Deadly goes without saying. Yes Boy, one of my favorites. And I'm really looking forward to this match. I mean, the gimmick for the match kind of sounds a bit meh, but I'm sure they'll make it work. And hopefully, both, if not one of these teams, are going to end up on the main roster in the draft. So we will see how things develop on NXT this coming week. Now we're going to move on to Dynamite, All Elite Wrestling. Now Dynamite for me was again a really, really good show this week. We kicked off Dynamite with the four pillars of AEW: Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and MJF, the AEW World Champion. Trading insults, talking about their past, talking about each other, as you'd expect. A really, really cool segment. We had some really interesting comments, like Darby Allin saying to Sammy Guevara, there was something along the line of, all the pillars, I've known you the longest, and oddly enough, I like you the most. There was Darby Allin told Jungle Boy Jack Perry, saying that you were handpicked because you're part of this California clique, and claiming that he works a hell of a lot less harder than anyone else, which Jungle Boy Jack Perry replied saying to Darby Allin that you're only here because you didn't make it as a skateboarder. Sammy Guevara then said to Jack Perry and MJF, both of you were handpicked to be here. You're the Golden Boys of AEW. Then we had Sammy Guevara saying to Darby Allin, "You win the TNT title, I win the TNT title. You jump off something higher, I jump off something higher. Now it's your turn to sit back and watch me become an AEW World Champion." And I like that comment from Sammy Guevara to Darby Allin. But you know, one of the standout comments MJF was to the crowd at Pittsburgh, shouting out because they were obviously berating MJF and he shouted out saying, "Good thing I don't care what you guys think, given you think Britt Baker is talented." Ouch. So yeah, that was it was an entertaining segment to kick off Dynamite. But sticking with Britt Baker. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter had teamed up to take on Toni Storm and Ruby Soho of the Outcasts. Enjoyable match. I'm liking the constant build up of this rivalry that's going on between them. I think they all work well together. I enjoy what they're doing. They're taking things up a notch every time, I feel. Obviously, Britt Baker's from Pittsburgh as well, so she was obviously very, very over. But Baker and Hayter got the win. It was a good match. A very, very good way to kick off Dynamite in terms of the actual matches. We ended up having a moment where Jamie Hayter was sent shoulder first into the ring steps, and you could hear her in some pain, distress. She was helped away from the ringside area by medical staff, so hopefully she's okay. And there's nothing to worry there. Backstage, we saw Wardlow, who's back now, and he's brought back Arn Anderson, and that's in preparation for the match he would have later on in the show with Powerhouse Hobbs for the TNT Championship. Then we had a really good segment with the Elite, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. They came out. They spoke about the issues with the Blackpool Combat Club. They called them out. Bryan Danielson popped up on the Titantron screen. It was basically a distraction because the other three members ran into the ring to attack the Elite from behind, beat them down. Bryan Danielson come out again, had the threaten to hit the screwdriver on Omega. Don Callis came out with a steel chair, sort of got halfway, 3/4 of the way down the ramp, realised, I think, I'm not a fighter, I'm not a wrestler. Oh dear, and he dropped the chair and then ran back almost like a cowardly thing. However, he come back out, and he didn't come out alone. He had with him Takeshita, who ran to the ring and started cleaning house, and Omega joined him in clearing the ring. The really, really cool addition to add to the obviously I'm not saying he's an addition to the Elite, but as an ally to the Elite, I should say. Takeshita is a brilliant equalizer to have. I'm really, really impressed with him. The fans went nuts. So it's going to be huge at Double or Nothing. I know Matt Jackson is apparently battling through a torn biceps injury. I'm hoping he's going to be okay, but I'm really, really looking forward to this match. Absolutely 100% cannot wait for this match. Wow. That should be brilliant. But anyway, as I said earlier about Wardlow bringing Arn Anderson back in preparation for his match with Powerhouse Hobbs, the TNT Championship was on the line, and Wardlow won the TNT Championship back. It was an okay match. It's typical big man, big spots. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for Powerhouse Hobbs. Some people can say he's probably been underutilized or he's been booked badly. I don't know, but it's going to be difficult in my opinion, to see how creative in AEW are going to maybe even repackage Powerhouse Hobbs. Who knows? I just don't feel that that they're doing him much credit with that. So we'll see what happens. But we saw during the. I do apologise. I don't know if you heard that. We've got a storm starting. The thunder starting. Awful weather. Christian Cage came out as Wardlow was celebrating with Luchasaurus. It's almost teasing that Luchasaurus is going to be Wardlow's next challenger. That'll be interesting because they've just put the title back on Wardlow. But if they just bring in Luchasaurus back just for him to lose, that's not going to do him any favours as well. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on to see what happens there with that. But next up, a match I was looking forward to, my favourite wrestler currently in the world, Switchblade Jay White, made his in-ring debut as an AEW superstar, taking on Commander. I really enjoyed this match. Jay White made Commander look really strong. A lot of near falls that Commander had over Jay White as well. But Jay White hitting the Blade Runner for the win. We saw Sean Spears, the chairman, sitting in basic ringside. We only saw him pop back up at last week's Rampage. Juice Robinson attacked Sean Spears, and it looked really, really bad for Sean Spears as Robinson and Jay White beating him down. But then we ended up seeing Ricky Starks coming out, making a save. Interesting to see what they're going to do with Sean Spears now. But I'm so pleased to see Jay White wrestling in America. I look forward to see more and what they're going to do with him because Switchblade Jay White is a main eventer. I don't care. I know people have a torn opinion on him, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, I think the guy is one of the best around. I do think he's main event material. I would love to see him against the likes of Adam Cole. More Bullet Club shenanigans, should I say. Then we followed up with a segment between Chris Jericho and Adam Cole in the ring. They met face to face. Adam Cole went on to tell Jericho about how much he respected him, how much he based a lot of his early career on Chris Jericho. Jericho turned around and said that he does not respect Adam Cole. We ended up having the Jericho Appreciation Society beat him down. They handcuffed Adam Cole to the ropes as Britt Baker came out. The Outcasts came out and beat Britt Baker down in front of Adam Cole. They made him watch Saraya beat Britt Baker repeatedly with a kendo stick. There's different scenarios that could happen here, but this segment was brilliant. It was brilliant and well done. We had a moment earlier on in the exchange between Jericho and Cole where Jericho says to him, "You don't want to." They were talking about never meet your heroes, etc. And Jericho says, "You don't want to meet me. You don't want to know me. You don't want anything to do with me." I'm all for this. If this is going to be the sort of last thing that Adam Cole does before he goes and main events and challenges for the AEW World Championship, that's fine with me. We saw the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn against the Jericho Appreciation Society in tag team match. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn got the win. It was an okay match. It was just, I think, just there. I think there was the stipulation that if the Acclaimed lost the match, they would have to join the Jericho Appreciation Society. Didn't happen. So I'm assuming that this little feud is now over with and it's time to move on to other things there. But the main event, we saw Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Sammy Guevara. number one contenders. Well, kind of a number one contenders match. An okay match. I actually thought this could have been a lot better than it actually was. Talking about having there being this fatal four-way, a double another nothing for the AEW World Championship. But what we did see was Sammy Guevara defeating Jack Perry via countout because MJF actually helped Sammy Guevara win. Yeah, and then they had this big embrace, rolling around, hugging each other, saying that they're friends and whatnot. Very, very strange dynamic, but it'll be interesting to see how they go from there. I'm interested to see how they follow up from this on Dynamite next week, because what's going to happen at Double or Nothing. I still don't think it's all set in stone yet, so we'll see what happens there. We're going to head to Rampage, an opening match: Jon Moxley versus the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels still looking in incredible shape. They were already in the ring when the match got started. Mox getting the early advantage into this. Daniels managing to survive many of Moxley's biggest offense. He also the Angel Wings got a near 2 count, but Moxley eventually put him to sleep and picked up the victory. But it was a good match between the two of them. Nothing special, but really, really enjoyable. There was a moment where Jon Moxley showed Christopher Daniels some respect, which was interesting, considering the Blackpool Combat Club are now basically heels. So seeing Mox do something like that was really unexpected, but it was cool. It really, really was. It really, really was cool. Kiera Hogan took on Julia Hart. Julia Hart picking up the win on that one. Again, it was an okay match. Hart getting a submission victory. Anna Jay ran to the ring and attacked her. Some officials all got involved to break her up. Anna Jay had a big black mark on her face, which made it look like it was a side effect of mist. But it was missing something, but it was an okay match. Nothing special. But the match that a lot of people were looking forward to was the team of Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and FTR versus the Varsity Trustbusters. Now, this, I don't know if you remember, we saw on Dynamite, we saw a bit with Mark Briscoe was in the medical office. All of them were in there because obviously they're all friends were friends of the Briscoes, and they agreed reluctantly to team up, and they got the win. FTR and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal got the win. We saw Varsity and Slim J managed again by Mark Sterling, but yeah, domination from FTR, Jarrett, and Lethal. Daxar getting the pin. A moment there where he and Jeff Jarrett almost came to blows, but Mark Briscoe came out, played Peacemaker, got them to separate. So that was an interesting team to see put together, most definitely. So then we had Vikingo versus Dralistico in a AAA Mega Championship match. Dralistico came out with Jose, had Preston Vance and Rush by his side. Got an early advantage. Champion recovered, sent him out of the ring with a drop kick. Beautiful suicide dive, but it was avoided by Dralistico, which sent Vikingo crashing onto the ramp. But it was just a high flying clinic from start to finish, what you'd expect from them. Rush, Jose, and Vance were all removed from ringside area. Vikingo made a late comeback, hit a running double knee strike. Then the champ hit a 630 senton, retain his title. But yeah, if Lucha Libre is your thing, go back and watch this match if you haven't already. It was great. But that bump that Vikingo took with the suicide dive and hitting the ramp was insane. So definitely go and check that. So now we're going to move up to Impact Wrestling, where we had nice little surprise on this one. We had a nice little recap of should we say, what happened at Rebellion this past weekend. Macklin is the Impact World Champion, and we open up with tag team match of Rhino and Heath Slater against Shogun and Jack Price. Was okay. Pre-show match, nothing special. But yeah, so we got the opening, the recap of Rebellion. We got Steve Macklin defeating Kushida, and also Deonna Purrazzo defeating Jordynne Grace, winning their respective championships at Rebellion. We started off the main show with Time Machine, Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, and Kushida defeating Jonathan Gresham, Mike Bailey, and Trey Miguel. Not sure why Miguel was teaming with Gresham and Bailey, but it was still a really good match. Technical exchanges at the start from Gresham and Shelley. Some great tag moments. A hoverboard lock from Kushida on Miguel. He managed to escape, got the tag to Mike Bailey, but Time Machine continuing to attack the arms, going after and targeting Bailey's arm. But yeah, we ended up seeing Sabin hitting the cradle shock on Miguel, getting the pinfall. We saw backstage, we saw Gia Miller with Santino Marella. They were talking about how he wasn't going to be wrestling often despite his win at Rebellion. Alicia Edwards walked up, complained about PCO, and ended up walking away with the match. Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice walked up, said they were going to fly in the top luchador. They were going to fly in the top luchador in the world for Swinger to face. Then we got Alicia Edwards against Tara Rising. That always reminds me, because the way Americans pronounce Tara as Tara, and we know Triple H in WCW started his career as Terror Rising. It always reminds me of that. It's so confusing. But yeah. But anyway, it was a squash match, really quick. Edwards absolutely destroyed Tara Rising. Jody Threat ended up running out to save Rising after the match. We got Moose with Brian Myers in his corner, defeating Yuya Imura. And it was a really good match between them. Imura looked like an absolute star. Moose made him look so good in that match. Imura hit a double underhook suplex from the top rope for a close 2 count. Moose ran up the ropes as Maya made a distraction on Imura, but Imura managed to shove him off and hit this beautiful flying crossbody. And then Imura rolled up Moose, got an earful that everyone, even myself, thought that Imura was going to win that match, but Moose hit the stun gun and the spear on Imura. And that was that. We saw Nick Aldis, who's just recently re-signed with Impact Wrestling, backstage. Who talked about him being at Impact and he wanted to face world champion Steve Macklin as soon as possible. He wants to reclaim the title he once held to prove that he's still the standard in wrestling. Then we are having Frankie Kazarian defeating the Good Hands in a handicap match. That was up next. We also got the Coven cutting this really freaky kind of promo about Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo, saying that she was a fraud. But yeah, then we had Sami Callihan cutting a pretty good promo about how he was going to destroy the design, and then he had references showing how he winked at the camera during some of the design segments. That should hopefully be coming to us to a close soon. That segment, that storyline. Impact Digital Media Champion. I mean, these names are championships, really. Joe Hendry defeated Sheldon Jean to retain the title. Steve Macklin had his changing the guard ceremony. We had all the crowd chanting out, "We want Josh." Macklin was talking about how it's his mission to become champion wasn't completed yet. He wanted to beat Alexander in his own time, and that was hometown. Sorry, that was the only thing left for him to do. Macklin then issued an open challenge. He taunted some kid in the crowd, threatening to beat him up. Scott D'Amore came down to the ring, said Macklin was running his mouth about opportunities, and D'Amore was the one that gave him the opportunities. D'Amore said that he knew Macklin had what it took to be a world champion, but made excuses for not getting his shot for the entire time he was there. Now Alexander was out, D'Amore accused Macklin of trying to dodge Nick Aldis. Macklin said that he was hoping D'Amore was going to stand up and fight him, come out of retirement, but D'Amore said that even though he was tempted to it, he was tempted, but Macklin did nothing. While his face but then attacked him from behind at Rebellion. D'Amore said if Macklin wanted a Canadian, he could face Perfect Creation PCO. Macklin's guys attacked PCO, but they couldn't beat him down. And PCO was just about to powerbomb Macklin before he managed to get away. So it looks like we might be getting an Under Siege Steve Macklin versus PCO. But yeah, it was an okay knockout show, Impact show. I think it was just kind of a filler show, just making that transition from what happened at Rebellion, going into what's going to happen next week and the build up to Under Siege. So yeah, that's what it's looking at the moment. So yeah, as noted, we've got coming up next this coming week on SmackDown is the first night of the draft. I'm excited because if this is now definitely going to be where the real era of under Triple H begins, then I'm so excited because I think Triple H being at the helm here, all these changes are going to be made, people going to different brands, and he's decided what's what. I'm excited to see what he's got in the pipeline. This draft needs to be successful. This needs to be a catalyst for WWE moving forward and getting even better because, drafts in recent years have been forgetful, have been pointless, uneventful, insignificant, and just really just haven't lived up to expectations. So it's time we had a draft that was really significant and was a big game changer. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, so until we know more of what's going to happen, we'll see what's what. But join us Tuesday. I hope we're going to have Sam from Pro Wrestle Dorset joining Andy and I. We're going to be talking all things draft as well. We're going to try and find a way of how we would book our shows. We don't know yet who's going to represent which show yet. We will see. We've also got, instead of Who Am I, we've got When Am I. I'm going to challenge Andy and Sam with a pay-per-view event from a promotion from a specific year. So they're going to have to guess that as well. And also we will have, bringing back to you as we did brought to you last week, we are going to have Rewind, where we will bring up what happened on April 25th throughout wrestling history, some notable moments there, and there's some good ones in there as well. So yeah, so make sure that you join Andy, Sam and I on Tuesday on from 7:30 p.m. Remember, we want to hear from you. How would you book the draft? Who do you think is going to make the move from NXT to Raw and SmackDown? Yeah, remember, you can contact us on WhatsApp on 07724312752. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, TSC Wrestling Podcast, Facebook at the Squared Circle Podcast, Instagram, find TSC Wrestling Podcast, Twitter at twitter.com/wrestling TSC, and email us at Squared Circle Podcast 2022@gmail.com. So that's it from me for this week with Extra. I do apologise that some of the production hasn't been working, I will be talking to Andy about that, and hopefully we'll get all that set up and sorted for you um, by next week. And yeah, we will see you on Tuesday. So until then, take care. Goodbye.